Joe and Mika Brzezinski Scarborough, who famously warned of the growing threat of Trump's fascism, also had an interesting announcement to make. As many of you are aware, the news has been pretty bleak recently, in the past 200-300 years. Listen, but this weekend, there was one story that was so disturbing, so dark. Even the news couldn't handle it.
Jon Stewart just handed Joe Scarborough and his always so serious wife, Mika Brzezinski, a sharp reality check, and the internet is absolutely loving it. Jon had the nerve to highlight how the power couple's recent actions don't quite match the holier-than-thou image they usually project. Let's be honest, it's not every day you see someone call out their own crew. That's the kind of rare moment people wait for in the political circus. But then again, it's Jon Stewart. The guy's made a living out of slicing through nonsense, no matter what color it's wrapped in. Red, blue, or that signature MSNBC beige. And there's a whole lot more to break down, so sit tight. This one's going to be a wild ride.
Joe and Mika Brzezinski Scarborough, who famously warned of the growing threat of Trump's fascism, also had an interesting announcement to make.
Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Because you said
you can't spend years painting someone as a monster, a dictator, a fascist-light version of Hitler, and then suddenly sprint to the White House like it's a Golden Globes after-party the moment an invitation shows up. I mean, seriously, pick a lane. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying Trump's toughest critics should avoid him forever. Dialogue isn't the problem, as long as it's real. But there's a huge difference between standing on principle and launching an endless crusade to torch the guy no matter the cost. You don't shout, "threat to democracy," from your MSNBC soapbox all day, only to sit down for dinner and small talk like he's just your oddball uncle with weird opinions. But for Joe and Mika, that's basically been the game plan for years. Outrage by day, cozy insider access by night. At this point, it's less about journalism and more about political theater with a fancy dinner menu. That's exactly why Jon Stewart called them out, because nothing makes his blood boil like double standards.
it was. We don't know what the tone of the visit was.
We talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents.
Oh, I bet you really laid down the gauntlet, Joe. I bet you walked in there and just let him have it, didn't you, Joey? Mr. President, your rhetoric is outrageous. I cannot in good conscience... Ooh, are those macaroons? The pink one is raspberry.
Much like Jon Stewart, I can only imagine what the conversation must have sounded like when Joe and Mika Scarborough paid their little visit to the White House. Did they stare Trump down, look him in the eye, and boldly say, "Hey, you're a fascist"? Did they whisper Hitler between bites of filet mignon and sips of fine White House wine? Or maybe they were just too busy sinking into the plush seats and admiring the fancy decor to bring that same MSNBC fire they love to show on camera. Because here's the truth. It's incredibly easy to play resistance hero when you're safe behind a studio desk, and the only thing staring back is a teleprompter. But standing face to face with the very man you've spent years comparing to history's worst tyrants? That's a whole different ballgame. Suddenly, all that righteous anger seems to fade, replaced by polite nods, forced smiles, and picture-perfect photo ops. That's not journalism. That's performance art. And for Joe and Mika, the spotlight always seems to shine brightest when power, prestige, and a solid catering table are in the room. Of course, this isn't the first time Jon Stewart has gone after MSNBC for their hypocrisy. Just a few months back, he took on the entire network for their full-blown case of Trump derangement syndrome.
The news has been pretty bleak recently, in the past 200-300 years. Listen, but this weekend, there was one story that was so disturbing, so dark. Even the news couldn't handle it.
We're not going to show because of how disturbing it is.
I was extremely disturbed to see this.
Horrible, horrible, violent imagery.
Violent and dehumanizing imagery.
We're only going to show you a clip of this briefly.
All right, that's enough. Let's take it down.
I didn't get to see it at all.
The ominous music, the grave expressions frozen on the hosts' faces. You'd think the country was in the middle of a national crisis, or that we'd just witnessed the opening scene of a political apocalypse. But what actually came next? A whole lot of nothing. Just another overhyped segment built entirely on smoke, mirrors, and a healthy dose of melodrama. And honestly, that's the perfect example of the game MSNBC loves to play. Spotlighting and inflating even the most harmless Trump moment if it means squeezing out a few more easy political points. They'll take a shrug-worthy headline, wrap it in doomsday packaging, and sell it as hard proof that tyranny is knocking at the door. It's not news at that point. It's theater. And frankly, not even the good kind.
Can't imagine how devastating this footage must be.
Former President Donald Trump shared a video, this one, on his Truth Social account featuring an image of President Joe Biden hogtied on the back of a pickup truck.
And that's exactly what gets under Jon Stewart's skin. The endless exaggeration and over-the-top sensationalism, all delivered with a straight face, as if any of it is new or unprecedented. The media clutches its pearls like the world is ending, conveniently forgetting the political circus they cheered on not too long ago. Remember 2017? Comedian Kathy Griffin proudly posed with a mock-severed head of Donald Trump. It was grotesque, tasteless, and flat-out disturbing. Silence from MSNBC. Not a single hint of the moral outrage we see them parade around today. Fast forward to now. Trump posts a satirical video showing Biden hogtied to the back of a pickup truck. And suddenly, it's DEFCON 1. Emergency panels are rushed together, anchors switch to somber tones, and the network acts like the Republic is collapsing in real time. This isn't journalism. It's selective outrage on steroids. And just like the rest of us, Stewart is fed up watching the same tired, performative script play on repeat.
You the same networks that show reruns of 9/11 every year? I mean, I don't think it's great that Trump is posting things like this, but it's not like people really think Joe Biden was tied up in the back of the truck.
Jon Stewart didn't stop there. He kept peeling back the layers of MSNBC's hypocrisy, this time calling out their selective sense of decorum. He pointed out how the network has never shied away from airing graphic, real-world tragedies, endless reruns of 9/11 footage, live coverage of horrific accidents, natural disasters, and scenes that are truly heartbreaking. That kind of raw, often traumatizing content? Totally fine, as long as it fits the narrative or spikes the ratings. But the moment a Trump video pops up, clearly over the top, cartoonish, and absurd, suddenly it's too shocking for public consumption. Now that's the line? Refusing to air the clip isn't about protecting anyone's sensibilities. It's just another layer of performative censorship. MSNBC isn't shielding viewers, they're shielding their own agenda. Because let's be honest, when real horror helps drive the story, they're all in. But when satire threatens to poke holes in their narrative, and the hypocrisy runs so deep, even Bill Maher couldn't resist calling them out.
There's no doubt.
There's no misinformation.
There's some disinformation from the left, but comparing it to what Donald Trump spews
I
out
agree.
every day,
I
every
agree.
week, comparing it to what Elon Musk is spewing out, unfortunately, on X, you sound like Brett Stevens
I
right
don't.
now, with all due respect. It's a joke. That's a real-time.
And you sound like him, who looks like Rachel Maddow. Or
You understand what I'm saying?
But I've never argued with that. I've never argued that the false equivalency. I just said there is misinformation from both sides. So I lived through COVID. Don't tell me there wasn't misinformation.
But there's a difference between...
I lived through stupid policies based on bad information and stifled information.
can't matter.
That's what Zuckerberg said. He said they were forcing us not to put out...
And here we have Joe Scarborough, as straight-faced as ever, claiming that misinformation from the left isn't nearly as harmful or dangerous as that from the right. Remember the COVID era? From the ever-changing origin story to the constantly shifting data and the non-stop doomsday fear-mongering, the left wasn't exactly a beacon of clarity. Faulty testing? Check. Inflated hospitalization numbers? 14 days to slow the spread, somehow stretched into months of indefinite lockdowns. It was a textbook example of public manipulation, and it worked. For months, people were gripped by fear, confusion, and blind compliance, while networks like MSNBC played hype man for every exaggerated claim. But now, we're expected to believe that only the right twists the truth?